Okay. I want to thank the Anti-Tea Party and all the good poets who've been reading, and Cornelia Street Cafe, who's made so much of poetry happen over the years. I'm doing a different kind of reading tonight. I'm doing some anti-war poems and some political poems. I mean, I want to thank Bernard Bloch, or Bernie, for making this reading possible for me, because it's the first one I've ever done. And I want to tell you, I'm reading poems sort of throughout history. My first poem is called In the First Punic War, and this goes back to 241 years BC, and they were at it then. It's a war between the Carthaginians and the Romans, and there were 3 of them, horrible wars over a period of 20 years. And in this particular poem, I'm addressing prisoners and the horror that prisoners experience in the war. This is called The First Punic War.
Don't forget the mic.
Oh, okay, now, did I just hug it?
Yeah, just there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Taken prisoner, the Roman general Regulus asked death to have pity quickly as a knife skins a fish, swiftly as a trumpet blows into the charge of horses. The Carthaginians looked the other way when Regulus stared into the sun. Blinded, shackled, he asked the sea to loosen his chains. Was it an ibis flying the migratory byways of Africa that took no heed, or a cormorant? History won't say. The next one takes you really into a more recent time, into World War I. And this is a poem for a revolutionary named Rosa Luxemburg. Rosa Luxemburg is a sort of fascinating woman who I read about and I found out that she went to law school in Switzerland. She was born in Poland, and it's her death that prompted this poem. She was beaten by reactionaries in Germany in 1919, and her body dumped into a canal. And the poem is called Bloody Rosa, for Rosa Luxemburg. Her body dumped into the canal. How did the water greet the fist of her heart? Nicht das ist alles. Is that what the sky said? The horse-drawn tram? And that bird, how could it sing so blithely? And the slap of the wave, did its bluster extend beyond the pier, the cobbled street, where a one-legged soldier took a quick piss and turned away? Rosa's blood joined to Berlin's phantom limb, recalling wholeness before one war blasted the innocence of fathers, and another began the corruption of their sons. I have a poem here for the rapes of women, the violation of women, and this poem takes place in the Bosnian War, more recent times, and it's called Sunday the War, because Croatians were Catholics, and there was this internecine war. But anyway, the poem takes place on a Sunday, and it's called Sunday the War. Come to Mass, her mother pleads before leaving. Yawning, the girl shakes her head. Earlier in the garden, she plucked flowers for the kitchen table, arranged them in the powdery lavender vase on a cloth embroidered with roses. At noon, a heave at the door. No, she begs, her haze of brown hair, damp blood stuck to her thighs, whose bones are smoothly joined and skilled at dawdling. He slams her to the floor, erupting seed onto the delicate scrolls through which life registers its cry, head crowned naked. The corporal hikes up his shoulders, adjusts his pack, wipes a strand of her hair from his mouth. The next poem I was so interested in hearing Peter read about the Korean War because my husband, my beloved's husband, was sitting here in the front row part, was a Korean War vet of combat correspondence, and we were married in the 60s, and of course the war that mattered so much to us, into which we marched in parade after parade, was the Vietnam War. And this poem is written for the Vietnam War, and it's a poem written with a great attention to sounds, because when I would hear the names of the places in Vietnam, they sounded like bells, tolling mass, a sort of a clanging of M's and N's. So this poem is called Mass for the Tolling Sun. Say Mass, then, for the tolling sun, high requiem for all dead men, Khe San, Con Chen, greening the fen, God's fern grows on. Sing Gregorian plain song to the lean monks in cells of stem. They hear the leaves begin to climb, but not dead men. Bells of rain, but not dead men who will not come. Da Nang, Bong Son, Saigon, young men, they will not come, who once were green, who memorized the lines of rain and slogans old men taught them. Feel hard the shame, they will not come, the dead young men who did not win in the tolling sun, the bells of rain, Da Nang, Bong Son, all wars unwon. Amen. And this poem takes you to World War II. I was born in Belgium, but I escaped World War II, escaped the occupation by coming to the United States in the late 30s. But I remember the spring of 1940, and I remember living on a block in Merrick, Long Island, Bayview Avenue, and the children were playing it, where we'd hide behind shrubs and run, and mothers were calling out the windows, and radios were constantly on. So this is a poem called Spring 1940. I tried to write it in one sentence. I'm not sure it comes off. Let me try. It's written for the children. Actually, it's written for those who are gone now. Spring 1940. They descend into that earth they played hopscotch on, or hid, crouched behind shrubs. The children, not wanting to be found or lost, like a bicycle wheel detached from its rim. The sun, on vague days of clouds, or in explosive red gold, when unglued from their radios, mothers called, supper's on, Europe at war, round up of innocence, commanders descend, a last glance, the flourish of a pen, their mothers' voices, gray lavender, like ash, extraterrestrials, infinities to come. I'm going to read this poem twice because I want you to help me with the last line. This poem was written for the brutal regime of Pinochet in Chile, and it was inspired by a documentary on TV. It's a poems taken prisoner in the desert town of Chacabuco, Chile, in the Atacama Desert. The driest place in the world. I don't think it receives any rainfall. Anyway, it was interesting that they have star observatories for stars and women sifting for bones of it. But let me say the poem, and then tell you that I have two lines at the end that I haven't decided on which one to use yet. So this is the first. I have the first one is in my head. Okay. Women sift the desert for bones of their dead. Under the Southern Cross, astronomers sift the heavens for a past long in arriving. Light's deep fields over painstakingly inscribed names of prisoners, broken, buried, or drowned by order of the dictators, Operation Condor. Everywhere constellations write their peaceful signatures. Or, maybe I'll just read the last couple of lines and then you won't have to hear the whole poem. You want to hear the whole poem?
Yes, read the poem.
Women sift the desert for bones of their dead. Under the Southern Cross, astronomers sift the heavens for a past long in arriving. Light's deep fields over painstakingly inscribed names of prisoners broken, buried, or drowned by order of the dictators, Operation Condor. Where does cruelty begin? That was my original line, and I sent it to a friend. He said, oh, well, that's very moralizing. That's very tendentious. So I changed it to everywhere constellations write their peaceful signatures. And I still haven't decided which one I'm going to say. Say where cruelty begins. Say with the second one.
Constellations.
First one.
Constellations write their peaceful signatures.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe half and half.
Thank you.
Welcome.